Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take your source materials, all the articles, the research, the notes, and really distill them into something you can use.
Right.
And today we are peeling back the layers on a true cultural paradox. Boys love media, or BL.
It's a spectacular subject for a deep dive. I mean, at first glance, BL, which it focuses on romantic relationships between male characters. It just seems like pure escapism.
Hmm.
It's aesthetic, it's emotional, it's dramatic. But then you dig into the data our sources provide and you realize this. This seemingly light genre is this quiet, powerful engine for social change.
A quiet revolution.
That's the perfect phrase for it. It's profoundly reshaping how people see love, identity, masculinity, all over the globe.
And that idea of scale is so important here because the sources are really clear. This isn't some small-time fandom anymore. It's an international movement.
Oh, absolutely. We are talking major industry budgets, productions that rival traditional dramas, and it's getting mainstream attention on multiple continents.
The global reach is what really makes this a conversation we need to have, right?
It is. I mean, BL media, it often starts in East Asia, but now it's just flowing so rapidly through streaming platforms, through fan communities in dozens of countries.
Right.
The material shows these huge organized fan bases, not just in Asia, but, deep into Europe, the Middle East, Latin America. It's a truly global viewing culture.
What's so interesting about that cultural impact, though, is that BL didn't start as some kind of social justice campaign.
No, not at all.
The genre really grew primarily through the work of women authors, women artists, who were exploring this really intense emotional intimacy between men long before you could find positive LGBTQ plus representation on mainstream TV.
That's the key context, I think. It succeeded because it was satisfying this hunger for specific kinds of stories.
Stories about what specifically?
Stories focused on emotional depth, on vulnerability, on relationships that weren't really restricted by, traditional gender roles. So it got its cultural footing before any kind of explicit agenda was attached.
Which made its influence all the more powerful later on.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's unpack that. Let's look at the mechanism. If this isn't overtly political, how is it driving change across so many different cultures?
Well, the sources all point back to its emotional function. It's all about emotion. If you look at viewer surveys, fan discussions, people aren't tuning in to get a lesson on equality laws.
No, they're looking for that chemistry, that romance, the escapism.
That's it. They come for the escapism.
But they leave with something deeper. It's like empathy is being downloaded alongside the entertainment.
Precisely. The core function here is normalization through exposure. BL, it just makes the unfamiliar feel familiar. It takes concepts that might be marginalized or seen as taboo like queer relationships, and it immerses you in the humanity of it all.
So you watch these two characters struggle, fall in love, overcome things, and you're just emotionally invested.
You're invested in their success.
I think that's the genius of what the sources are arguing. It's not a lecture about equality. It's just a really well-crafted love story.
And that bypasses the need for any kind of intellectual argument.
Right.
Confrontation can build walls, but connection that builds bridges. And this genre operates through emotion, not through argument. That's what allows it to get into cultures that might resist other kinds of content.
The moment you're rooting for the characters.
You're rooting for their acceptance.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Okay, so if the emotional hook is the engine, let's look at what happens when people turn that inward. How does this genre actually impact personal relationships, self-discovery?
This is where it gets really significant. I mean, fans all over the world report that watching this stuff helped them fundamentally rethink their own views on affection, on intimacy, on communication.
It gives them a counter-narrative.
A powerful one. It challenges traditional media, which so often forces male characters into these really restrictive emotional boxes.
That's fascinating. So fans start to notice how limited male emotional expression is in most other shows. They see the vulnerability and the open communication in BL, and they contrast it with, the stoicism or aggression they see everywhere else.
Yeah, the sources really emphasize that. BL provides this model for male relationships that's deeply affectionate. It's focused on mutual care. It really pushes back against those hyper-masculine stereotypes.
It shows that tenderness isn't weakness.
It shows that tenderness is a core part of a strong relationship. And that shift, it affects everyone, regardless of their orientation. We see allies reporting that watching BL helped them communicate better in their own relationships.
But the really transformative part, the thing we see in thousands of online testimonials, is the direct impact on self-discovery for queer individuals.
This is what some call the safe emotional mirror. For a young person who might be struggling with their identity, especially in a culture where there's just no representation, BL provides a whole library of characters.
And they're not perfect characters.
Not at all. They're flawed, they're struggling, but they're sincere. For some people, it gives them the first words they've ever had to describe how they feel. For others, it's just the comfort of seeing someone else go through that same journey.
It's the difference between seeing a stereotype for 30 seconds on the news and spending 16 hours watching a character grow and change. The investment makes it real.
Absolutely. And the sources highlight that this is critical in regions where LGBTQ plus topics are censored or stigmatized.
Yeah.
BL, because it's sometimes just seen as harmless fantasy, it can become the only safe space for exploration,
It tells people they belong.
that their love is valid. Yeah.
But I have to ask, if the genre started as fantasy written mostly by women, how does that translate to realistic self-discovery for queer men, where the stakes are very real? Don't the sources talk about critiques like fetishization or maybe idealized relationships?
That's a crucial point the sources definitely addressed.
Right.
And yes, those critiques exist. But the sheer volume of positive self-acceptance stories suggests the impact is outweighing those issues. And very importantly, the genre has matured.
It's evolved.
It has. Modern BL, especially from places like Thailand or Korea, it's increasingly focused on realistic social pressures, on coming out stories, on navigating family. It's moving beyond pure fantasy. It's evolving to meet the needs of the audience it helped create.
And that complexity is what leads to real-world change, that emotional resonance.
Yeah.
It doesn't just stop with the individual, it inspires collective action. And here's where it gets really, really interesting.
Yes.
Because that feeling of shared connection, it turns into real-world solidarity.
That transition from fandom to concrete advocacy is the second major vector of change. These fan communities are intensely organized. The sources detail how they move beyond just talking about the shows to creating essential social infrastructure.
What kind of infrastructure are we talking about, though? Give us some examples.
Okay, so we see groups creating these safe online spaces, moderated in multiple languages, to offer mental health resources for people questioning their identity. But beyond that, the activism is tangible. There are major charity drives linked to the birthdays of BL actors.
Raising money for what?
For genuine LGBTQ plus organizations, for homeless shelters, environmental causes, you name it.
So they're channeling the enthusiasm for the story and the actors into measurable, real-world action.
Exactly. In countries where, say, a pride event might be difficult or dangerous to organize, these communities sometimes put together flash visibility campaigns around screenings or events for the shows.
Wow.
For so many people, joining one of these BL communities is the very first time they've ever felt seen and supported. It bridges that huge gap between just watching something alone and finding public acceptance.
And this momentum, this cultural force, it hasn't been lost on the big entertainment companies. The sources make it so clear that BL is influencing the whole industry.
Oh, the viewership figures are impossible to ignore.
The money is there.
The money is absolutely there. The industry evolution is stark. I mean, streaming platforms, production companies, they now see BL as one of the fastest growing and most engaged audiences in the world, so investments have shifted.
They're not side projects anymore.
Not at all. Companies are budgeting for high production value BL series as a core part of their strategy now. They want to capture that massive, dedicated international audience.
And the moment a niche genre becomes a reliable, high-profit center, the rest of the industry has to adapt. This leads to that spillover effect, right?
Precisely. Because BL proves that these diverse, queer-centric narratives aren't just viable, they're highly profitable. It lowers the perceived risk for everyone else.
So the influence spills into non-BL content.
Directly. You start to see more nuanced queer characters in mainstream dramas, in comedies, even in kids' programming, and just a general acceptance of more emotional complexity in male relationships across the board.
So the success of BL fundamentally changes what the industry thinks is acceptable, what's bankable, and what's culturally relevant. So even someone who never watches a single BL episode is sort of benefiting from the cultural normalization it's created.
That is the definition of a tectonic cultural shift. It changes the language. It changes our expectations of what romance can look like. And most importantly, it changes the audience. And those audiences, empowered by what they see, they eventually push society toward wider acceptance. It's this powerful feedback loop.
Wow. Okay, so we've gone from personal self-discovery all the way to global entertainment economics. It is a far, far cry from simple escapism.
Right. And if we zoom out to the bigger picture, the key takeaway is that BL has always been more than just romantic tropes and pretty aesthetics. It holds up this necessary mirror to identity, to love, to human connection.
So when critics call it escapism,
We have to remember the counterpoint in the source material. Sometimes, escape is profoundly healing. Sometimes, escape is the first step to empowerment. That escape can be deeply transformative.
so what does this all mean at the end of the day? It means that real, lasting cultural change. It rarely arrives shouting. BL proves that it can come quietly through these moving stories that connect and invite you in. It's just steadily, gently reshaping how the world understands love.
It doesn't ask for permission, it asks for your empathy. It doesn't argue, it connects.
And as we wrap up, here's a thought for you, the listener. We know that love stories have always been one of the most powerful forces in shaping culture. So think about the genres you consume just for fun, whether it's fantasy novels, reality TV, whatever. What other light or escapist media might be subtly changing your society's fundamental assumptions about relationships or power or identity? Think about how connection, not confrontation, is what really drives the biggest cultural revolutions.
Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing. It really helps the channel grow. See you in the next one.